What's up YouTube, Mr. Lamissy here, and today we're going to be talking about the Diablo 4 quarterly update. So yesterday we got the announcement of the Necromancer being the new class. They gave us a little gameplay trailer, cinematic trailer, a little bit of dev talk around it, and today we're getting the June quarterly update and all of the goodness that is going to come with that. So let's jump on over. Look at that. Twitch is excited to see you guys. They're saying hi. Let's dive in. Diablo 4 quarterly update, June 2022. Hello and welcome to the mid-year Diablo 4 quarterly update. By the way, props to them for continuing with these updates. I'm really enjoying these. Like, D4 has definitely been, a little bit in production and ways, and it's taken some time. But shout out to them for every quarter giving us an update and giving us something cool to look at. I think it definitely does keep some hype to the game, and just it's fun to see the development and as things are changing around. Whether I like it or not, it's still interesting and cool to see. So shout out to them for that. We hope you enjoyed last quarter's behind the scenes look at the art of Sanctuary and its dungeons. That blog and its previous updates are available here if you missed out. I'd also like to take a moment to congratulate Diablo Immortal on its launch. Okay, today we're going to look at the final launch class, the Necromancer. Now that it's been announced on the big screen, we can jump into some of the grittier details and mechanics of the class. You can think of this blog as a companion to that announcement, with our lead class designer Adam Jackson doing a deep dive into the core playstyles of the Necromancer, some of its skills, and its unique class mechanic, Book of the Dead. We'll also look at a selection of the incredible armor and weapons that Necromancers can use. Diablo 4 is committed to the principle of player choice. It shapes how we approach many of our systems, from character customization to the density and layout of our open world to the design of our classes and builds. As you'll see below, the Book of the Dead focuses on this idea of choice and what kind of necromancer you want to be. I like that a lot. I do think player choice is a very important aspect, and the more that you give that to a player in just a variety of systems, the better it is. The more that things tend toward just a simple one way to play, one way to do anything, the worse that it gets. And this even happens a little bit in Diablo 2, right? There's a lot of greatness, but there's still places where things kind of shift into some specifics, And some of that's just you can't avoid, but it's good that they have the at least mindset and philosophy. We hope you enjoy this update and look forward to your thoughts and reactions. Later this year, you can expect to hear more about how we plan to support Diablo 4 after launch, including our plan for seasons. We're grateful to have you with us on this journey. Thank you for playing the games we make. Joe Shelley, Game Director, Diablo 4. So it looks like we'll probably have season passes, maybe? That's actually a question that I am curious about. They've said that the game is going to be a full cost game, so probably 60, 70 bucks, 80 bucks, whatever it is. They'll have cosmetic transactions. They said they're not selling power for Diablo 4. I don't believe they're going to shoehorn in all of the microtransaction pay-to-win stuff that is in the mobile games. So I do believe that that's not going to be pushed in. We'll still see when it comes around, but that's my assumption. But seasons is actually a question for me, whether there is going to be a season pass or not. I feel like if you're charging full for a game, you shouldn't charge for season passes. And instead, seasons should just be like content that you're creating, right? Just like the ladder and anything, just new seasons. PoE leagues, whatever. So hopefully there's not season passes. That would be something, tell that to Destiny, exactly. Hopefully not, because I feel like if you do that, you're double dipping too much, Here's the Necromancer trailer. We watched this yesterday, I think, but we'll watch it again. Why not? It's a little gross.
I speak.
Maybe turn your kids' eyes away.
Those who heed a darker call. Those bold enough to cross the line of sin for deeper knowledge, who follow an unquenchable yearning, born of blood and bone. unlock the forbidden secrets and foulest black rituals.
Everybody likes glowing eyes.
Calling forth life from death. To truly embrace this power, you must take it into the world. And you will be shunned, scorned, marked as a living sacrifice to this profane knowledge. You will be a priest of Rathma, a necromancer. And you will not confront the darkness alone. We are the speakers of the dead.
Look at this golem in the back.
Dead have no mercy.
So that does look very cool. Greetings, heroes of Sanctuary. Today we're thrilled to announce that a fan favorite, the Necromancer, has once again returned to slay and subjugate their enemies with necrotic magics. We had a blast working on this iconic class and we can't wait to get it into your hands. We know the Necromancer has a storied history in our franchise and we are taking a lot of care to give players an experience that lives up to the hype. We also have spent a considerable amount of time making sure that fans of Diablo 2, 3, and Immortal versions of the Necromancer see something familiar with what we have to offer, while at the same time creating something unique for Diablo 4. Read on to see what the Necro is all about. I'm actually very surprised. I really thought they were going to go with a holy class, Paladin or Crusader, something along those lines. Very, very shocked that Necro is what they chose. I thought this would have been a expansion DLC character instead, but it's interesting. Class features. The Necromancer has two different types of resources that they use, Essence and Corpses. Essence is their primary resource, which restores itself automatically at a slow rate. Using basic skills on the Necromancer will also grant Essence, allowing them to cast their skills more often. Corpses, on the other hand, are the leftover remains of enemies who die near the Necromancer. These remains can be used to summon skeletal minions or to power various other skills, such as Corpse Explosion. In addition to appearing when enemies are killed near the Necromancer, corpses can also be generated via various effects, giving you additional control over how you want to interact with them. While there will be plenty of corpses at a baseline level, we're aware that some players will want to lean into this resource, and as a result, have included plenty of options to ensure that they are not left wanting. What does that mean? Does that mean you can maybe summon some corpses in the future? And then here's some corpses on the ground. As far as the weapons and other unique gear, Necromancers use swords, daggers, wands, focuses, and shields. In addition to these, they're also the only class that can use scythes. The only class that can use scythes. Okay, so scythes are now going to be Necromancer-only weapons. Bro, looking emo. She kind of cute, though. I definitely do love the different looks and stuff that you can give them. Yeah, the character design is amazing. Look at that. Come on. Aww, let's go, baby. Now my only hope is I can actually find this set and I don't have to buy it, because it looks really cool. It's always the saddest thing to me whenever a game has awesome looks, but only when you pay for it. But if I could find this armor in this set, I would love it. Or this set, or this set. Let me look like this without having to buy it. Okay. Additionally, what self-respecting necromancer would be running around the world of Sanctuary without curses? We're happy to say that you'll be able to put these nasty debuffs on your enemies to your heart's content with skills like Decrepify and Iron Maiden making a return. Well, we'll see. The Necromancer has 4 level playstyles that players can choose between. These playstyles are Bone, Darkness, Blood, and the Army. It's like the Facebook. Bone. Bone skills are relatively physical in nature and thus benefit more heavily from effects such as Critical Strike. Oh, so Bone is now going to physical. Like, you know, D2, it's magic. These skills also benefit from having and spending large amounts of essence, as they have various effects that can cause each of the individual attacks to be even more powerful. Bone Spirit is back in Diablo 4, and now it has a unique twist that exemplifies what Bone skills are all about. Bone Spirit not only has a cooldown, why would you say that like that's a positive? But also consumes all essence the player currently has. Once cast, a Spirit of Bone is conjured that seeks out the nearest enemy. Upon reaching them, the spirit will explode, dealing a high amount of damage to the target and all other enemies in the area. So it's got an AoE effect, which is kind of cool. This damage is increased by a certain percentage per point of essence spent, meaning that the player who spends the max amount of essence will deal a significant amount of damage to enemies hit. The skill can also be upgraded so that when it critically strikes, its cooldown is significantly reduced, meaning players who commit to generating lots of essence while also having a high crit strike chance will get a lot of damage from this skill. Okay, so you're going to play a crit mana regen, crit essence regen, Bone Spirit, and just play for that. Okay. Again, see how it plays. That reads very Path of Exile D3 to me, honestly. But again, you know, how does it work? How does it actually play? Important questions to ask, right? We can't make a full judgment on it here because there is still question around it. Are the crits going to be, you know, 10,000% damage crits, or is it, you know, crit is double damage and you have like a 20% chance and it caps? Or are you literally running builds where it's 100% chance to crit and the crit is thousands of percent or hundreds and hundreds of percent, and you're just playing this build where it's just, you know, purely spam, blow up, get the essence mass, because, you know, it's like every time you crit your essence maxes again, you know, whatever stuff. We'll see how they implement the systems. But the AoE explosion of the Bone Spirit is cool. Another bone skill that Necromancers will have access to is Bone Prison. When the player casts Bone Prison, they slam their weapon to the ground, calling forth a circular wall of bone to surround the target enemy or area. Enemies cannot move through this space while the Bone Prison persists, which makes it incredibly versatile and be able to be combined with many other skills, even those that are not themed around bone. Bone Prison is great for blocking off hallways, trapping groups of enemies inside to set them up for an AoE attack. or for simply sectioning off a group of enemies to deal with later while you handle higher priority targets. See if we can see some stuff. Ooh. I mean, that did look cool. I'm not gonna lie. The prison looks, it's more stony than bony, but looks cool. And it looks like this is our bone spirit, and then it's blowing up in that AoE. Darkness. Darkness skills use shadow magic to overwhelm their enemies. These kind of attacks tend to be dot-based or attack multiple times in a short window, with various benefits and rewards being granted for damaging enemies in this way. Darkness skills also tend to have various debuffs and crowd control elements, so they can keep their enemies at bay while they die a slow, painful death. Decompose is a basic darkness skill that allows you to channel dark magic onto enemies, dealing damage to them while also generating essence. Unlike other basic skills, Decompose also periodically summons corpses, making it much easier to ensure that you have a steady supply on hand to use for summoning skeletons. So there we go. I was wondering if they were going to have a corpse generation methodology, and it looks like they do right there. So I think a lot of people are going to like that. That is one of the really annoying things in D2 whenever you can't generate corpses. So you have to go find them and whatever. Basic skill sounds like D3. Yeah, so there's basic skills and they're your resource generator. So instead of a mana potion and mana, every class, just like D3, has their own resource that is their mana, and then you have to use your basic skills or whatever to generate it. So again, I do think it goes back into the idea of the rotation, where you have to find the rotation of, I use my basic spell generates the mana, I use the spell that uses all of the mana, then I use the basic spell to generate the mana, right? And you kind of like do all of that. I personally am not a fan of this methodology. I don't like the basic skill to increase. I can also understand people saying potion spam of Diablo 2 is way too much, and I can agree with that. I honestly think Path of Exile has a decent potion system if they just didn't have crazy legendary potions that were so insane, and it wasn't so necessary to have such specific potions that you had to do finger rolling rotations on your potions, right? Like, that's such a problem in Path of Exile. You have to, like, push the one to put your armor on, push the one to do that. Like, you just keep rolling your potions because you have to have them on every, like 6 seconds, 5 seconds. You have to roll them to make sure you keep your armor up and all of this stuff. So, yeah. Yeah, but I liked PoE potions prior to that in the way that it was generation, but you still were caring, so I don't know. I don't like this method quite as much, but that's just me. Another darkness skill is Blight. Blight launches a ball of dark energy in direction upon hitting an enemy or expiring. It deals an explosion of damage while leaving behind a defiled area, dealing periodic damage to enemies inside over time. This skill deals a high amount of damage to enemies who are staying in place, whether that's due to fighting undead minions or being contained. So let's look at this. Okay, so this first one is the basic attack, I guess. So that's the generation. And then that's the pit itself. Right? Channel dark magic onto enemies, dealing damage while generating essence. That didn't look as cool. The Blight looked kind of cool. The problem with that first attack is it's just a standing face tanking attack, it looked like. And I just have to wonder, like, why, not why, but that's like Inferno or Arctic Blast, or, you know, I don't know, like I just, maybe it's just a bad showcase, but I wish it was more than just, you know, as such. I don't know. Again, this is just looking at one person who just ran up and wanted to show the skill because it's just a generator. Yeah, generators don't feel as great. Spenders feel really good, sort of thing. Blood. Necromancers can also use the power of blood magic to siphon the life from their enemies. Not only do these skills tend to have defensive-oriented benefits, they also have many ways to turn that defense into offense for the player, empowering them and rewarding them for having large amounts of maximum health, as well as keeping their current health total high. Blood Surge draws a small amount of blood from nearby enemies to the Necromancer, and then expels a blood nova, dealing damage near the player's location. The damage of the blood nova is increased per enemy drained, which incentivizes you to be in the middle of the pack of enemies for maximum effect. Another blood skill is Blood Mist. Upon activation, the Necromancer disperses into a bloody mist, becoming temporarily immune to all damage while draining the life of any nearby enemies that they pass through. This is a universally powerful defensive skill that gives you the time you need to regroup in those dire moments when you become overwhelmed. Okay, let's see. Man, that is just Nova Sorceress right there. Okay, I mean, you're gonna add, that skill is just seems like kind of slow gameplay. I mean, I like slower gameplay personally. Was that Vlad from League? I don't know League very well. But yeah, that was Nova Source, and then the first thing, I guess, Diamond Skin or something. It looked okay. And then we know there's the Blood Wave, which I think needs a big overhaul in its change, or in its visual. As you would expect, Necromancers can summon the undead to do their bidding. We also allow players to specialize into empowering their army as much as possible, which includes various kinds of skeletons as well as the classic golem. One advantage of this method of playing is that it can easily incorporate the benefits of bone, darkness, or blood skills, allowing you to have a great deal of customization of how you want to interact with your army. As an example, we believe it will be perfectly viable to have a player pursue a darkness-themed army build with Decompose as their basic skill to generate corpses, as there's an obvious synergy there. However, if the player wishes to generate corpses via other means, they can just as easily take a nostalgia trip to the year 2000 and just chuck bone spears at their enemies from a distance while opting for all the other bone skill synergies that the Necromancer has to offer. We went through a lot of iteration on how we want the experience of summoning the undead to feel for the player and how much of their skill bar should be dedicated to this part of the class. To that end, we've come up with what we feel is the best possible version to ensure that players have as much customization as possible over not only their army itself, but also in which other skills they want to use to support their own unique playstyle. If a player wants to have a maximum number of summoning as possible, then they will only have to dedicate 2 buttons to their skill bar, one to raising skeletons and the other for their golem. The raise skeleton button is a one-stop shop to raise all the different skeletons a player can summon, and the golem button is used to command the golem to use a unique effect that is dependent on the type of golem that is currently active. With this setup, we found a great balance between having the necessary tools for raising and commanding a Necromancer army, while also leaving room for player expression in what additional skills they want to put on their bar. So there's only 2 buttons there. So I guess Book of Dead will tell us more. Speaking of armies, what self-respecting necromancer isn't wandering around with one? Well, that might actually be you. While we absolutely have the full support you would expect to fulfill all your undead summoning needs, we're also giving some love to players who want a more independent playstyle. Okay, so we've got skeletal warriors, skeletal mages, and golems. Cue the Book of the Dead. The Necromancer's unique class mechanic. Right from the moment you log in, you will start with an extra skill on your bar, Raise Skeleton. With this button, you'll be immediately able to raise undead warriors to fight by your side. In addition to this, you'll have access to the Book of the Dead. This is a space where you can customize your army, or lack thereof, with increasing options as you level your character. There are 3 customizable summons in this space: Skeletal Warriors, Skeletal Mages, and the Golem. Each summon also has one of 3 specializations that you can choose from. As an example, you can have your Skeletal Warriors be Skirmishers, Defenders, or Reapers. Skirmishers are a more standard warrior but have increased damage and reduced health. Defenders have bonus health, and Reapers have slower attacks, deal damage in AoE in front of them, and have a special wind-up attack that deals a high amount of damage. In addition to this, each specialized unit in the army has unique upgrades available to them, giving you even more customization over how each unit in their army functions in the overall playstyle. These units and upgrades will have synergies with the various playstyles mentioned above, as well as add other potential ways to play. That's actually really interesting. I do like this a lot. I mean, I don't like the look of these, but I mean, these have to be just placeholders. I'm not even going to comment on those, right? Those are definitely placeholders. And, you know, I talked about I don't like the text a ton and stuff, but I like the idea. I think the idea is really cool of being able to decide which you want, and for each of them, if you want to have them active or not, or if you want that a different bonus, and then upgrades as well for those. I think that's a really fun kind of way to play it, giving you a lot of customization over your army. In addition to all this customization, we've also had the ability for players to sacrifice different components of their army for personal benefits. Next to each unit type in the Book of the Dead is an extra option to sacrifice the ability to summon that unit in exchange for a personal permanent buff. These buffs are carefully designed and placed so that players can mix and match having none, some, or all of the possible summoned units, while still having relevant options to enhance their build. Excuse me. Our goal with this system is that there should be something for everyone to be excited about. There are relevant, powerful options to choose from, whether players want to play with the full army, part of the army, or even for those who wish to forgo their army completely and play solo. We've had a blast playing with this system so far, and we're excited to see the various combinations that you all come up with to push your necromancers to the next level. Final thoughts. We're so excited to be able to bring the Necromancer to Diablo 4, and we can't wait to get it into your hands. Whether you're a veteran player who's put in thousands of hours over many years, or a new adventurer in the world of Sanctuary, we hope you'll have a lot of fun with what we've been able to create. As always, please leave us our feedback on what we've shown you so far. While we're confident that we're on the right track, we know the best ideas and best games are created with input from the community. Thank you all so much for your patience and for joining us on this epic journey through the world of Sanctuary. We promise it will be worth the wait. Don't forget to follow Mr. Llama SC on Twitch and subscribe and like the video on YouTube, as we want to make sure that he gets all of the love right there for all of the help. And he's been a very vital person in the design of this, and leaving a comment on his YouTube video will definitely be something that we will read. Adam Jackson, lead class designer, Diablo 4. Wow. Crazy that they would put that in, that little shout out at the end. Appreciate that. Blizzard. Not bad. I feel like I like the idea of Shadow. The generator I thought was meh, but I like the idea overall. I think it was cool with the dot. It's kind of got a poisonish feel to it in a slightly different way, you know, which seemed interesting. The blood nova explosion seemed cool. If they can change that effect of that giant blood wave, it could be cool. The jelly roll thing, whatnot. I think the mixing and matching of the summons with all the skills is interesting right there as well. It does seem like you're going to be able to be a summoner pretty much just like no matter what. You obviously can trade off if you want to play solo, but it seems like it shouldn't be hard to just max your summons with a couple skills and then have all your other points there easily. Try and think what else. The bone prison looks cool. I still do have concern around what the crit is going to look like. Yeah, overall I thought it was a decent update though. You know, I think the Necromancer is a cool character and is an exciting character to have, so you know, we'll see. We'll see right there. Is this okay? So this is maybe a.
We got a good look at Diablo 4 during the Xbox showcase. However, we have a little bit of extra footage that we wanted to show off just to give you guys a better understanding of the gameplay. Specifically, we have footage of the Necromancer, one of the classes they just announced, as well as some PvP stuff and a world boss. Joining me is Eric Tay. He is the Blizzard Diablo expert, so we had to get him on here to kind of go over some of the cool stuff that he noticed.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jake, and hello to all the fans. But it's really exciting to see more Diablo 4, of course. Seeing the Necromancer get revealed, not my personal favorite class of you know, the Diablo timeline, but you know, I know there's a lot of folks that enjoy the class, and we're getting to see kind of just some tried and true, right? Some corpse explode and kind of going through a dungeon with just a golem, which is interesting because, you know, the Necro's known so much for being a summoner class, and we're gonna, you know, see some variations of the Necromancer gameplay throughout this kind of first clip. We'll kind of let this play through a little bit, and then I can get into some of the other stuff in a little bit.
Okay, first note from that, I still feel like a lot of the stuff doesn't have great impact. Him swinging his scythe through everything was very, yeah, zero impact on hits, exactly. And again, it's, you know, the potions are also pretty basic, so my hope, guess, whatever, is that that's not the final animation. That's just like a temporary thing while they work in the impact for it all. It definitely has some of the D3 feel. I felt like that looks just that like playthrough piece of everything here. Looks more D3-ish overall there. I also do have some concern of, again, just everything being that same width pathway, and it's just single pathway. I hope that more of these dungeons and zones and things like that will be less of the D3 Rift style.
Let's play through a little bit, and then I can get into
just so many of these pathways, all the same in every dungeon, you know. See, like that had good weight. That looked cool. I like that explosion there for sure. Okay, let's see him ride a horse.
Now we're out in the kind of like open world. Here, different class kind of build here. You have skeletal warriors, you have skeletal mages. What looks like maybe teeth from kind of Diablo 2 or a variation of bone spear, as well as some cursing going on. We don't get context in terms of like what exactly each of those skills are. The only thing that I saw through these clips that we got are just more about the different variations for the summoning, which is, you know, the primary core of a Necromancer. But, you know, I can kind of break some of those down. So the skeletal warriors that are kind of out there right now are probably either skirmishers or reapers. There's three variations: skirmishers, defenders, and reapers. The defender, which is the only tooltip that we got through this kind of gameplay, is geared towards having
a little more weight on the attacks, yeah, a little
durable bit. Shield bearers with 15% more life.
I feel like, well, what was that monster?
Geared. The Defender, which is the only tooltip that we got through this kind of gameplay.
Watch this monster.
Geared towards having durable shield.
Okay, maybe some weight on monsters needs a little bit of work. That dude is also flying.
Bearers with 15% more life.
Look at them. All right, so a little weight there.
We'll see some Defender.
I'm sure they'll adjust that. I hope.
Skeletal Warriors later in the later part of this clip, but you know, you can upgrade it one of two ways.
Is there a way to see when he curses them?
You know, you can
like that they are cursed.
Upgrade it one of two ways. One of the ways, you know, every 10 seconds your skeletal defenders will negate the next instance of direct damage they would take.
Yeah, I think the summons getting involved in the action and stuff really well is great. And you can see the mages are actually keeping their distance and shooting, which is also really nice. So, you know, the AI is looking good.
One of the three options
on that part.
Non-physical resistance.
Unlike Diablo 2 AI, which is the worst AI ever.
But you'll no longer be able to raise skeletons. The skeletal mages, there's three options. There's Shadow, Cold, and Bone. For example, with Cold, as one of the upgrades, each time your Cold mages damage enemies with their primary attack, you gain 2 essence. If you want to sacrifice the Cold skeletal mage, you'll deal 15% increased damage to vulnerable enemies with their primary attack, you gain 2 essence. If you want to sacrifice the Cold skeletal,
it's 16%. Every 5th Iron Golem attack causes a shockwave dealing 16%, 3288 to 4019 damage to the primary and the enemies behind him. You deal 30% increased critical strike damage, but lose the ability to summon a golem. Again, it's the X 30%. But there's only one golem summoned, so what's the X again? Okay, just inferring 130. Okay.
Mage, you'll deal 15% increased damage to vulnerable enemies, but again, no longer able to summon skeletal mages. And then with the golems, there's Bone, Blood, or Iron. In this clip, you're seeing Iron.
I love the bear, the little fencing response bear.
Again, no longer able to summon skeletal.
He falls over backwards and just has his hands up.
And then with the golems, there's Bone, Blood, or Iron. In this clip, you're seeing Iron, so I just break down what Iron does. Iron Golem will slam the ground and stun enemies, and every 5th Iron Golem attack causes a shockwave, dealing X% damage to...
I like the Bone Spear look a lot.
5th Iron Golem attack causes a shockwave,
look at that,
dealing X%
that
damage
cool.
to primary enemy and enemy behind it. That's one of the 2 upgrades for the Iron Golem. And then if you decide to sacrifice the Iron Golem, you'll deal 30% increase.
And your summons actually like keep up pretty well. And I love this Iron Golem also.
Damage, but you can't summon a Golem anymore. I've never enjoyed the summoning aspect of Necromancers, even though that's kind of what the class does. So it's kind of cool to have this passive ability of trading off your,
and again, the mage is really keeping away, which is good.
Stronger, essentially. But what we're seeing in this clip is you have the Defender skeletal warriors that I mentioned, as well as Iron Golem. There's legendaries that they're not picking up, presumably to keep some of that hidden. Although I know a lot of folks probably want to see what those are. And then you have either a Bone Spear kind of like variant where it is hitting the wall and then bouncing back and kind of making 3 bone shards or smaller bone shards. Don't know if that's an upgrade for like Bone Spear or Teeth.
I'm guessing that's a Bone Spear upgrade.
I'm not sure which one it is. That looks more like Bone Spear though.
Yeah.
Or if it's kind of like a legendary effect that's like on one of the Necromancer's items right now on this specific character.
one thing to just note, a lot of that information you gathered from a build that's not final. So like some of that could change, so don't take everything as gospel that we're saying. But anyway, back to the gameplay.
Corpse Explosion's good sound. The Bone Spear has good sounds as well. I mean, this looks pretty decent. Again, the pathways, the single pathway is my biggest complaint 100% right now. But I think the look is actually cool. And how it's playing right now. I mean, it is one-hit kill right now, but I'm guessing their character is overpowered for this area. And so they're just running through, right? If this is the difficulty and you're just always walking through, killing everything in 1 or 2 shots, I'm going to be much more sad. I do think it looks and feels more like Diablo 3 with an improved art overall.
We're getting some PvP here, which is something they're kind of bringing back, right? It was pretty big in D2, but was absent in D3.
Yeah, like it's cool to see it come back. You know, there's definitely a lot of folks that enjoy PvP. So don't know how it'll interact with, you know, what end game or like mid game looks like, or what kind of rewards you even get from it. But, you know, it does give that extra flavor of kind of builds and gear that you might want to use specifically for PvP that might not be necessarily good for PvE, but, you know.
Yeah, that firewall is not final.
You know, is catered to just fighting other players.
I need more time.
That's probably more like closer to final. They really like that skill. I think they're really proud of that one. It does look cool. I need more time. Yeah, cooldowns. I mean, they already said cooldowns are going to be there. So maybe that is a final firewall, or like final, but it's like something else the source has that makes it red. I don't know. The snake is a lot. That's the only thing. It's red for PvP. Maybe. And like that Inferno moves very fast, right? Like the whole, there's no, you know, if fire is shooting and then you move it, that would still keep going on its same path, right? But the whole thing moved, which doesn't really make sense. There's the Necro with his spots there. They're just going at it, man.
Alright, so the last clip we got is a world boss. And this boss looks pretty impressive, but you were noticing some similarities to other D3 bosses, right?
Yeah, just a little bit. You'll see later on, like in the clip, when it kind of does some summons where like it summons some treasure goblins, kind of eerily similar to Greed from Diablo 3, where you take your puzzle ring and put that in the cube so that you could get this kind of like secret level. But yeah, it's a pretty big spectacle, having a big boss out in the field with, I tried to count them. There's definitely at least 7 characters, but I think you can have up to 8, as they mentioned.
Yeah, that molten gold looks really good.
Previously, there's the kind of the goblins running off. It saddens me that they don't try to chase them to kind of kill them to get the gear that
there's a loot goblin.
Drop. But hey, we're focusing on DPS on the world boss here. And I think the other one cool thing that I noticed is it kind of feels a little bit like Monster Hunter-y, where at the start of the fight the boss isn't as beat up, it doesn't have as many scars, but kind of like over time you kind of see a little bit more like cuts and a little bit more bleeding from the boss. But yeah, just cool to have an open area where you can kind of team up with other players and kind of tackle a big boss, and get some hopefully good gear.
I mean, I do think this boss looks really cool. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I think this boss looks really cool. Looking really easy. Yeah, I hope he like hits some stuff hard,
And that's it on the Diablo 4 gameplay. Thank you all for watching. And if you want to check out more Diablo coverage, we have a couple videos on the spot right now, including an interview with some of the developers.
I mean, that was cool. Yeah, he is slow and infrequently attacking right then, for sure. The art is definitely very cool. And it's a showcase, so they're not going to show like the game being hard and stuff, right?
That I highly recommend you check
out.
See you next time.
Oh, that's cool too. Yeah, so I feel like the art is looking really cool in this game. Some of the skills definitely still need some work, some weight, things like that. Some of the monsters still need some weight. Obviously they're doing all of these things, but I think like a lot of the stuff does look decent. It really still is just gonna come back to, and we'll probably see a lot with the alpha beta, whatever they let us play. We'll really probably see then how much Diablo 3 is really in the game, and what the itemization actually feels like, what the damage actually feels like, how the difficulty of the game actually feels, because that's such an important piece that I think we really want to note is is the game going to be difficult? Is the game just going to be easy, like one button push and you kill all sorts of stuff when you get later on? Or even like there where you're just kind of walking through and it's a straight line and you shoot a single bone spear down the line and everything dies, you know? So, you know, we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I do think the Necro is a cool character and a cool choice. I think there's some fun pieces of what they showed there. So we'll see how it all ends up. But regardless, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment just like Blizzard told you to do. Thanks for watching, YouTube. Peace.